Kyle Shanahan said in his interview during the later part of the game that he actually wanted to play Trey longer, but realized that he did not have that opportunity. I think it was pretty clear. You and I were texting. I was like, you got to get Trey Lance out of this game. This is really, I thought, in many regards, a pointless exercise for Trey Lance on Thursday night. But he played, so what'd you think?
Well, listen, he is going to be – it's pretty hard to just evaluate his game in a vacuum. He threw a dime to Kyle Juszczyk, I think, like first pass of the game. He had another play that I assumed that he threw it into the ground. You did, broke it down, forwarded it to me. It's pretty clear that it gets tipped. I mean, the guy's hands out.
Credit to the guy. People on Twitter actually said to me, no, it was tipped. Watch it again. So
it was clearly tipped.
Credit to Twitter.
Other than that, I mean, he was kind of running around for his life. I think you feel good because the Niners tonight, just as a whole, start to finish, pretty lifeless effort, pretty shitty. And it's, a lot of guys played on offense, defense. Kyle had the thing tonight where it felt like he was prepared to make Trey look pretty good, kind of, because, he had backup offensive linemen at both his tackles and his left tackle. There was one play where Jalen Moore didn't touch the defensive lineman, and he was there so fast. Even the running back was like not even over in time yet. So he had the ball to Debo that, was it a perfect pass? No, but it was pretty damn good. And Debo just, was covered kind of, and the DB made a good play. I'm not taking away anything positively or negatively. The one thing I did think, though, watching him play was like he had to play. He just needs to play. And Herbstreit kept
talking about in this preseason game.
I'm just talking about in the preseason and the preseason in general, both these two games. As the game went on, obviously, I think one thing Herbstreit, I'm sure he's done Iowa State games when Purdy was there, just kept hammering home his experience. And that, to me, like these last 8 months for this guy, like now it's on. I mean, now these games where it just doesn't matter, and I can say, well, fuck. I mean, what are you supposed to make of it tonight? Those days are over, and you're just going to get evaluated on making plays, even when you're kind of put in shitty situations. Now, the one thing that's clearly different between him and Jimmy, obviously, is his mobility, which we'll probably get into as this goes, but I don't really know what to say. I don't feel bad about it not looking great because I don't put it necessarily on him.
It's funny. I think sometimes people think we're gonna rip them at times when we give them a pass, and people want us to give them a pass at times when we're critical. My takeaway when that game ended was I hope that's the last preseason game we see Trey Lance play in. Kyle Shanahan has shown if you earn it, like Trent Williams, especially Nick Bosa. If you earn it, if I don't think there's anything to gain by playing you in these games, I am not going to play you in these games if you're a very important player. Fred Warner did not play again.
But do you think it would be possible for him to have a season where he would already be at that level next season?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I mean, to me, it's just as simple as, does Kyle Shanahan feel like you need these reps? And if he rolls out and plays, 17 games and they go to the playoffs and he gets a playoff game, I do think he could get to a point where he feels like, now to me, is there something mechanical and he wants it at game speed? Is he working with a different left tackle one day in a couple of years? I don't know. I'm not saying he'll never play another game, but I hope this is the end of needing Trey Lance to play 2 out of the 3, or maybe it's 3 one day. If it's not a short week, that type of thing. That would be my hope. Now, you're right. Maybe I'm asking for too much, but tonight was an example of, while I agree with you when somebody on the chat said there's no such thing as useless when you're in the position he's in, every rep counts. And I agree with that to a point. But I think the larger issue for Trey, once we get into the season, how does he handle real NFL, like defenses that are trying to trick him? It's a game of adjustments, blah, 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 real game speed, all of that. He's getting more of that in practice against his own defense. He's getting more of that in joint practices. Now, he can't get hit, but that's okay. I don't want him getting hit in preseason games. And tonight, he got close to getting hit a lot. So the preseason is where he got injured last year when he chipped his finger against the Raiders. Kyle Shanahan made the point that he likes those padded helmets only because it protects the quarterbacks when they follow through. Well, they don't wear the padded helmets in the preseason games. So, my hope for him is that he passes the point of the preseason being useful to him. Because I honestly didn't see a lot of use tonight watching that game.
Well, clearly on defense, he didn't see any use to start anyone except really Hufanga, who's still a young player and probably needs the reps as well in space. But offensively, because Trey needs a lot of reps, it did force him to put Ayuk, Debo, Kyle Juszczyk on the field. Because those guys, Kyle would have no problem if his quarterback was a 6-year vet, and he looked at it like LaFleur or McVay look at the preseason, and like Kyle does on defense, he wouldn't be forced to put those guys in harm's way. Like ultimately, like Juszczyk took a big hit. I mean, just because he caught a ball, he had to, got tackled. They ran Debo deep, right? I mean, those were plays that you could run in practice and ideally maybe avoid doing in the games. But I'm hard pressed to see that they're at that point next year. He's just because even this year, if he plays all 17 games, we'll say make the playoffs or whatever, his still resume as a starter is relatively small compared to just the NFL, right? And just where he wants to be. And someone texted me tonight my thoughts on Trey Lance, a pretty prominent guy, and I said, part of it is he's going to be way better in several years just because he's going to improve. And I think I use Jalen Hurts as an example. Now, Jalen Hurts is not as good as him, but like when I talk to people with the Eagles, they're like, is he friggin' Donovan McNabb or Patrick Mahomes or something? Of course not. But he is so much better than he was 18 months ago. Why? Because he truly cares. It means everything to him. He's a high-level football guy. And Trey is too. Like football means a lot. The football character is high. So when that's the case, you just improve. Now, you don't always improve to like Josh Allen's level, but I think Jalen Hurts is going to be a good example. Like he's going to be better than people thought. Now, does that ever mean he's a top 10 quarterback? I would still bet against it. And the Eagles don't even know that, but they would tell you he is dramatically better than he was 2 years ago. And that's where I think a guy like that, like Trey, who is much more physically gifted than Jalen, I think in 2 years, he will look dramatically better than this year. But like we always say, they're judged on this season is about minimum making the playoffs and making some noise. So he can't just be a total nothing, right? He has to, they're going to need him. There's going to be several times we talk about all the time on 3rd and long. And that's where ultimately the way I described, I think this team is going to try to play is like the Patriots last year that won 11 games, defense, running the ball on steroids. Because they're way more talented than that Patriot team, right? But I think that is kind of...
They can be a lot more creative, I think, offensively than that Patriot team.
That's a great way to put it. They can be way more creative offensively and defensively. Honestly, they can probably be better. But I think that's going to be their philosophical... I mean, it has been under Kyle just in general, but I mean specifically, like, can this team get to 11, 12 wins playing like that? Well, it's proven. Now, you could, looking at their schedule... There are going to be games where, I mean, they're playing some pretty potent teams, right? The AFC West is going to be potentially all 4 of those teams are going to be potent on offense. The Rams, as long as Aaron Donald didn't hit Stafford in the head with the helmet, is going to be awesome. I'm not a huge fan, but like they do have weapons, and they're one thing they can do when everyone's healthy is score, and that's the Cardinals. I mean, that's how many games is that right there? That's 4 against Arizona and LA, and another 4. I mean, that's 8 games against, pretty sweet quarterbacks. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Trey, but
that's where defensively, can you neutralize in 8 of those games, keep
for
them
sure,
like,
but you still,
20.
But you still have to make some plays along the way, right? Which you still have to make some plays along the way. So a couple, I think some basic throws he made, avoided some sacks, got sacked. Herbie pointed out the tripping the Jeff Wilson Jr. on the first handoff. They were not in sync on that play, right? The first handoff of the game where Trey kind of runs into him, gets his feet tangled up with him. And Herbie read that as a little just over anxious. He missed Kittle on the 3rd down play when Kittle was open. Similar, I guess not similar to the Danny Gray throw, but in terms of just where he missed versus where the target was. Did
they ever show the replay on Kittle?
I did not see the replay.
I don't think they did either. It was like, can I tell? Now, clearly he, was way too far ahead.
He had to, it was too far out for him.
One take I had texting a buddy in the league, I was like, I wonder, and it's hard to make these like hard stances in the preseason, but it's like, and when Juice had the first down, everyone went Juice, and now Michael's like, there's more 49er fans here, but it's still, there is a vibe when you're on the road. You went, some of these, and my head immediately, I know they open on the road, but I think you and I have been talking about it for so long. That Denver week 3 game Sunday night is going to be a mother bleeper.